dreams have been those that have happened while I was awake. And the more awake, the better. In fact, I truly believe that when we're fully awake, we're most fully alive. For when we're fully awake, I think we see connections between ourselves and the world around us, both the natural world and the people that form our environment. This was exactly my experience in the summer of 1997 when I heard a voice. It was a voice on the radio. It was the voice of Kelby Uchley. And Kelby had, at that time, a radio show called Bayou Diversity. It was on KEDM, public radio, and it's still on the air today. That day, in 1997, Kelby was announcing that a national wildlife refuge was being established just north of my adopted hometown of Monroe, Louisiana. And Kelby invited all of those of us who were interested in helping out to a public meeting at the local newspaper office, the News Star, a few nights hence. Well, I went. Me and about 40 others. That night, Kelby infected all of us with his dream of how much that refuge could do for our community. It was his vision for Black Bayou Lake National Wildlife Refuge. I didn't really realize at that time how deeply I was infected, but, well, you'll see. A few days later, some of us from that original meeting and a few more gathered in front of an 1880s planter's home that was sitting out near the refuge, was in pretty bad shape. Kelby told us that the landowners had offered that old planter's home, 1880s, this was old. They had offered it to the refuge to be a visitor center. So it would have to be renovated. This thing, the idea of renovating it, I think was really a dream. Look at it. It had holes that went from the roof to the ground, holes that were big enough to drop a Volkswagen through. But Kelby had a vision for that old house. And again, I was infected with that vision. Kelby also suggested that in order to accept this gift, we needed to form a friends group, incorporate, have officers, file as a nonprofit organization. So we got the ball rolling. Bob Eisenstadt, my friend and an economist at ULM, with some urging, took the job as president. And the Friends of Black Bayou was officially born. The city of Monroe actually owned the lake and the 40 acres next to the lake. The federal government then leased that property as what's called an overlay refuge. Dave Tyler, a retired Air Force man, accepted the position of volunteer construction foreman, volunteer, for the next 4 years. Every day, he was out there working on that house. The rest of us jumped in and did whatever we could, not being experts in construction, but we hammered and sawed and sanded. I remember a lot of sanding. Some of us did publicity, some of us cooked food, whatever we could do to help out. In fact, it was an impossible dream, but we didn't know enough to realize that we couldn't do it. So we did. About a month after that original meeting, we decided to have a fundraiser. So we had our very first fall celebration out there. We called it that year Beans on the Bayou. you can tell by the name of it about how successful it was. But at any rate, we have been having those fall celebrations every year since. In fact, this coming October the 19th will be our 17th fall celebration. And now about 2,000 community members show up to enjoy their refuge. There's a free fish fry, there are environmental education activities, free canoeing, and my favorite activity, the release of baby alligator snapping turtles. That's the best thing. And this group of community activists took on all sorts of projects, started and finished many projects, and have some still ongoing. Trail building, pier and boardwalk building, fundraising to build a conservation learning center, research projects where we supported ULM biologists in doing active conservation of species, the sponsoring of a photo contest every year, quilting, a friendship quilt that now hangs in the visitor center at the refuge. All of these things and more. I could go on and on listing projects, but what I'm more interested in talking with you about tonight is the two aspects of our success, the two components. I think they're the place and the people. One of my very favorite contemporary authors is a philosopher named Kathleen Dean Moore. And she has a book called The Pine Island Paradox. It's a collection of essays in which she talks about how people seem made to love, to be connected, and also how much our love for the natural world reflects our love for people. And she writes about that kind of love in this passage. I believe that the most loving thing you can say to a person is, look. And the most loving stance is not a close embrace, but two people standing next to each other, looking out together on the world. When people learn to look, they begin to see, really see. When they begin to see, they begin to care. On the other hand, I've known some people, and I'm sure you have as well, who seem perpetually unhappy. They seem to always be looking for the right hobby or job or relationship or possession that will make them happy, and never seem to look right outside their own back door. It seems to me that loving a place, like loving a person, anchors us and makes it possible for us to see, to live. In another book, one called Hold Fast, Kathleen Dean Moore explains how the long root-like structure that holds or anchors the giant kelp to the rocks along the seashore is so amazingly strong. The holdfast, metaphorically, is that which keeps us anchored, even when we move or get pushed around or even get battered by fierce storms. My holdfast is rooted in family. My parents' and grandparents' love of the land, particularly the wild lands, and the values that they passed along to me that made me want to keep those lands there for my sons and for future generations. Black Bayou Lake National Wildlife Refuge is a natural outgrowth of those values to me. Because it seems to me that our love for the planet begins with our love for a particular place. In my case, the particular place includes giant water tupelo and ball cypress trees along Hannah's Run, the big overcup oak tree at the first bend of the nature trail, the big granddaddy alligator that we often see when we're kayaking out to check on the eagle's nest, the pallid sturgeon swimming around in his tank in the Conservation Learning Center, beautiful purple irises growing around the ponds near the visitor center, my favorite, pied-billed grebes bobbing around like bathtub toys on the lake. And finally, the majestic great egrets and great blue herons with their very undignified squawks, declaring that this lake belongs to them. I guess you can tell I'm in love. Luckily, I'm not the only one. There are others, volunteers, who have dedicated themselves to conserving this refuge for the wildlife, for conservation and environmental education, and recreation for children and adults. They've all given so much. Many of them aren't with us any longer. George Malk, who continued to promote this refuge until his dying day, along with his wife, Carol Malk, who contributed so much in her unique way of her interior design capabilities to help improve the visitor center. Jim Moore, a retired graphic artist who designed our logo, our pins, who wrote poetry and did so much else to promote that refuge. And Nell Odom, who baked and originated the recipe for Black Bayou Lake mud pies. She baked 30 to 40 Black Bayou Lake mud pies every year for our fall celebration until her passing. And then she had also taught the rest of us how to make those pies, and we still make them every year now and remember her. Dave Tyler, our volunteer construction foreman, is also gone now. But that visitor center is such a perfect memorial to him. Talk about building dreams. And there have been so many others, so many that have contributed their particular talents and expertise to support that refuge. Charlie Carmichael, who's a madman with a lawnmower, he retired from State Farm and started mowing. He's worked as a full-time volunteer at the refuge for many years now. One man that comes to mind, you'll never know his name, but he contributed so much, Richard Johnson, who hammered every nail in every board on our boardwalk at night, after work. And he used a portable generator to provide light while he did that work. Leslie Calhoun has been our director, volunteer director of our refuge shop for years. Amy Uchley, our award-winning environmental education director, has also been doing that job for years and doing an amazing job of it. Bob Eisenstadt, our first president, has been an officer ever since, and now he is our treasurer, a job that no one envies. And that's to say nothing of the staff, the Fish and Wildlife Service staff, starting with that first visionary refuge manager, Kelby Uchley, our first refuge ranger, Gay Brantley, and now we're lucky to have as our manager, Brett Hortman, and most recently, our new refuge ranger, Nova Clark, along with many biology and maintenance staff people who have given and worked way more than any reasonable expectation. There have also been businesses and companies and government bodies that have given and worked and contributed so much to our refuge, so that when I go to conferences around the country of friends groups, I'm often asked, how do you all get all this support from government bodies, politicians, organizations, individuals, businesses? The answer is really easy. We take them out to the refuge and show them around. So, we had a dream. And our dream continues to come true because of the love of the land and the dedication of the people to that land. You know, there are two other P's besides the place and the people. They are perseverance and passion. We're not giving up. We're not quitting. We're going to keep on passing our dream along. And finally, I guess I would be leaving out a major component of my waking dreams if I didn't tell you one more thing. In the summer of 2005, while I was president of Friends of Black Bayou, and we were in the midst of building our Conservation Learning Center, I was diagnosed with neuroendocrine lung cancer. It's a weird kind. I'd never smoked, never lived with anybody who smoked, but, you know, there it is, slam. I was told that I had no more than 6 months to live with treatment. My younger son had just graduated from high school at that point, my older son from college. The medical side of this story is that the doctors at MD Anderson threw everything they had at it. Chemo, research drugs, radiation, and finally the removal of my right lung. That was 2005, folks. You can do the math. But the connection of this story to my dreams for Black Bayou is this. There is nothing like being told that you have maybe 6 months to live to make you understand and open your eyes to the beauty of life. I know it's a cliche, but the colors of the sunset at the refuge became even more vivid. The sounds of the birds and the frogs and the children were amplified. And the warmth and love of friends and family became my lifeline, my holdfast. And what I see with my eyes wide open is why I act. To protect, to educate, to share, to celebrate. Thank you.